Okay, folks, welcome to the Power Rankings Show, Week 6. I'm Matt Doyle here with Tom Bogart, filling in for Andrew Wiebe, who is on staycation, a well-earned staycation, I must say, for the week. Tom, thank you for jumping in, man. I know that you are a big fan of the weekly Power Rankings show.
I am indeed. I do love listening. I appreciate how much you've emphasized that I'm just filling in. This is a fill-in Tom, fill-in Bogart. I just want to let you know. I appreciate getting that out of the way. I think that the people are clear in that I'm a fill-in, but in case you're not, Doyle, I'm sure, like sports radio, you might have to reset it every 10 minutes. By the way, I'm going to Tom, fill-in Bogart here.
Yeah, I mean, the sports radio thing, like, I grew up listening to WFAN. I assume you did as well. So, like, everything I get, like, I learned from Mike and the Mad Dog. That is how it goes. Let's go to the top of the power rankings, right? Let's start with this top 10. And for the folks who might not know, we changed the format a little bit a couple of weeks ago. And rather than just sticking with the same top 10 every week, we're going to go to just pick 10 teams that interest us from around the league. But we do have to start with this top 10. Colorado down 3 to 10th. They're having trouble putting the ball in the net, but funny enough, their number 9 is scoring. No one else is. Chicago down a spot after their loss. The Red Bulls down 4 spots, and that's kind of deserved given their struggles. Orlando City up 10 spots, Tom. Orlando City up 10 spots. What happened there? What do you think?
I think that it's just the most impressive 1-0 win over a 10-man team that this league has seen. No, I think it's a little bit of fatigue. It's a little bit of, the top 5, top 6-ish is like sorted, particularly like the first 5. So then 6 through like 15 is really like results based, whatever happened that weekend. So I think that has more to say about other teams disappointing than Orlando being necessarily great.
Do you think that Orlando is actually at the front of that class in terms of that, like, 6 through 15 or 20? Because, like, there is a huge scrum in the middle of MLS right now in terms of, like, who's good and who's maybe not that good.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Colorado, you still have to give it to them in that, but like Orlando, I've been higher on them than you most of the season. Like I think that, I just generally trust Oscar Pereira. I generally trust Facundo Torres, even though he hasn't looked, great yet. I think Alexander Pato has been really, really good, and I don't think any of us could have really accounted for that. So I don't know. I think that they're like this central midfield group. It's going to be difficult to get over Antonio Carlos being out in central defense, but I just think that there's too much here to not give them respect. I've been calling them just, an obvious playoff team all year, and I just think that's what they still are.
I think I'm with you on that. Dallas at 6th, they're looking like an obvious playoff team at this point, that they've had a home heavy schedule. Nashville, the opposite. It's all road games so far. They have 10 points from 6 road games. 7 of those points have come against Western Conference teams, which means they're not just taking points, they're denying home points to teams they're competing for a playoff spot with. That's huge. LAFC down 4 after that El Tráfico loss to the Galaxy. Seattle at number 3. We'll be talking about them at the end of the show because they have the second leg of their CCL semifinal against NYCFC, who are no longer in the top 10. And NYCFC are 11th. Completely understandable given the way they played. Galaxy up to 2. Philly still at number 1. Been so solid and got themselves a golazo this weekend against Columbus Crew. Just an unforgettable goal for them. 5 wins, 1 draw through 6 games. Only 2 goals allowed all season. Okay. That is a round out of the top 10. Now let's start the show for real, Tom. We're going to talk about the Quakes. We were, for those of you who just joined in, we were talking a little bit at the start is like, am I a sicko for still enjoying watching the San Jose Earthquakes every week? Because like this is like they're the only winless team left. Yes, they finally scored this weekend. Like there can be a little bit of a silver lining with the way that Jeremy Abobasi played, but like this team's they're a disaster, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly enjoy watching them. Even like last year, I thought that they were so fun, and just because of how much chaos and how much you really couldn't predict, and they'd be fun because they were more competitive. Like now, it's just I don't know. I don't particularly enjoy watching them. Like they don't get the big TV treatment if there's any other game on at any time so far this year. Maybe that has to do with the matchups too, but I don't know. I just think that the bid has been played out. It's no longer a surprise. It's like, the end of like a TV show that went 1 season too long or a couple seasons too long, where the episodes are just bits and they're predictable. And it's just, yeah, it's crazy, but I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me anymore.
So is this the final season of Game of Thrones type stuff? Is that what you're Is that what you're saying?
Never
Like,
watched Game of Thrones. I think I'm telling on myself there. I'm going to
Wow.
get some ridicule, but I don't know. It reminds me of, I don't know if you guys are Scrubs fans or anybody in here is Scrubs fans. They did a last season, and Bill Lawrence, the creator, was talking about this recently. Like, he doesn't care about this criticism because they didn't have the same writers doing it, but they had a lot of the same staff. It was awful, but like, he still stands by it because he's like, yeah, I got 55 more people another year of paycheck. So like, I don't really care. Like, everybody knows that it's like Scrubs 1 through 8 or whatever is the real legacy. So I don't know, man. It's just a long-winded way of saying no. Like, it's just weird. Like, I don't understand how this Matias Almeida is still in place. I think he's been pretty public in that he's not happy and he doesn't really want to be here. He's been very critical of the club and the organization. The organization, I don't think, like, definitely doesn't believe in him. Like, there's been nobody from either side of this, clearly headed for a divorce that has said anything about the future in a positive way. Everything's just like, yeah, we're working about today and tomorrow, and we know that both sides are motivated. So I don't know. It's just kind of difficult to get behind.
Are you hearing that anything is in motion in terms of maybe Almeida saying, okay, like, let's figure out a buyout number that works for both of us so that he can move on and the Quakes themselves can move on?
No clue. I mean, again, like, from everybody I've talked to, it's just a foregone conclusion that like he won't be here. And that's why I'm like so shocked. Like, there was a clean break opportunity this offseason. There was a new front office. They made a number of new signings. They moved on from some of Matias Almeida's guys, but they didn't, move on again. And Matias Almeida himself, I'm sure he doesn't really want to be in this situation, and I'm sure he has other options. So I don't know if this is the Quakes, not really wanting to pay up for a buyout or whatever. And like, again, for all the criticism I given Matias Almeida, like, get your money, man. Like, you signed a contract. I don't blame him at all. So I don't know. I do know that Luchi Gonzalez is a name that they really like, but if you're Lucci, like, why would you leave the national team staff right now when you're going to the World Cup? And then if you're the Quakes, are you just going to punt on this entire season? If there will be a coaching search if and when this happens, but if they decide that Lucci's their guy, like, do you wait until November or December? Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of questions, and hope is pretty low for this team. This is a transition year that they're just going to need to kind of survive and advance through.
Yeah, punting on the season is what it does look like. And for those of you who are listening, or if you're watching on YouTube, producer Phil just picked some devastating lowlights from the Quakes to roll over this discussion, which I truly appreciate. But the bit being played out, we're talking about man marking, right? We're talking about Matias Almeida's defensive principles of his system, which is, there is nothing zonal about the way the Quakes play. And like, there was some of that last summer. He like, after 4 or 5 4-goal defensive performances in a row, he finally went to a zonal system, and the Quakes were able to stop the bleeding at least a little bit. But he's gone away from that. Like, it's clear if he's going out in shield.
Yeah, and again, I just don't understand. It's been how many years, how many data points of this, and like, I keep on going back to this. Like, J. Sam Jones put it perfectly. Soccer doesn't need to be this hard, and so it's difficult for me to really understand and even try to understand at this stage.
I will say, here is the silver lining, right? Here is one. Like, I still like, in a sane world, I still like this front six for the Quakes. I think Jeremy Abobasi can score 15 goals if he stays healthy. I think Cade Cowell is, another potential 8-figure transfer out sometime in the next 2 years if you just play him as a winger. I think Christian Espinoza has already shown that he could be the type of guy who provides 15 assists in a season. I think Jamiro Montero, Jackson Ewell, Jan Gregus, Judson. I love Judson. He barely plays for Matias Almeida. Like, these guys make sense together in just like a straightforward 4-3-3 on both sides of the ball. So if they do make that coaching change, and if they do get in someone who actually simplifies, I think the Quakes can go from a punchline to a pretty decent team, like, literally overnight. And a lot of it just goes, I'll quote J. Sam Jones again, soccer doesn't have to be this hard. But the Quakes make it hard. It's brutal to watch. It's especially brutal if you're a Quakes fan. Luckily, neither of us are. Neither of us are Revs fans either. Neither of us expected the Revs to be down in 23rd. This team is, are they as bad as they look? I will ask you that.
I keep on wanting to say no. And again, you look at this team, like, first of all, Matt Turner not being in there is huge, but that doesn't just solve everything. Henry Kessler missing games, Andrew Farrell missing games. But like, they planned for this by signing Omar Gonzalez. They planned for Adam Buch's eventual departure with Josie Altidore, and Josie didn't start with Gustavo Bo and Adam Buchsa out last game. I think that's a pretty big indictment. I haven't read any quotes from Bruce, to be fair. Maybe there's something I was missing, but the whole reason they signed him on this big TAM deal, long-term TAM deal, is we don't know how pretty or how ugly this will look in 3 years. The idea was particularly right now and this season for either when Buxa or Bo weren't available or for when Buxa sold on, is that he's just an insanely overqualified second option or rotation option, whatever you want to call it. The fact that he's not starting when those guys aren't playing is just, it's a really big indictment. So I keep on assuming that you just plug in these individuals and like a lot of the things can work. Like there were a lot of individual mistakes. That third goal, the goalkeeping has been, going back to that second Pumas game, it's been really, really bad. Matt Turner changes a lot. We can't expect the new
Matt Turner's only here for 2 more months, though.
Yeah. So, and as I'm getting to it, we can't expect the next goalkeeper to be Matt Turner, but I think it's fair to assume he's not going to be, this much of a detriment, or they completely miss on that signing. Like I generally lean towards optimism before seeing players play in MLS. Regardless, like you think if you get the upgraded goalkeeper with Farrell and Kessler being able to play center backs, and then even one of Bo and Buxa, like they should be fine. But I don't know. There's again enough data that suggests that maybe it's not going to be that easy, and maybe there are some changes that need to happen.
Yeah, and speaking of the data, our good buddy Joe Lowery wrote a feature on MLSsoccer.com, what's wrong with the Revs, and he digs into some of the numbers. The second spectrum numbers, the tracking data essentially that tracks every player on the field, their every movement, trying to figure out where what's going wrong is going wrong and why. And a lot of it comes down to like this team is just not able to stop anyone in transit. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing now like just the Miami was able to constantly get into transition and create goals, but they're not getting pressure to the ball, especially through midfield. But I looked at the data myself, Tom, and like they weren't getting pressure to the ball through midfield last year either. And like in a lot of ways, it seems like Bruce Arena's point of view is that, in order to be a good team, your best players need to be the best players. And that like, it's kind of true. Last year, their best players were, Buxa was a top 3 center forward in the league. Mm-hmm. Bo was really good. Even like he's not a player I particularly like, but he was really good. Carlos Gil was the MVP and absolutely amazing from set pieces. They're terrible on set pieces this year. Turner, we know about. Even the fullbacks, Matt Polster. So is this just like a team-wide regression? Just like they overperformed to last year to the degree that they're underperforming this year?
Yeah, I think that the truth definitely lies somewhere more in the middle. Like they're definitely not this bad. Like you've said this, even like you go back to that Bruce Arena quote pretty often, that even he's saying last year that like we might not have been this good. And again, like the point total was the most ever in MLS history. So like that's not necessarily groundbreaking, but they're not this bad. I think that they were overperforming, obviously, because if you set a record, you have to overperform in some sense because expected goals and all of that comes down to averages. And sometimes, the outliers play out. But I still think that this should be a really good team. Are you worried about Carlos Gil?
No, I don't think he's as good as he showed last year. But I still think he's been really good. I'm more worried that there needs to be a tactical fix here as well. And
I don't trust that that's coming.
As a Bruce has never been great at that, right? Like the obvious one to me is go to a 3-5-2, get an extra center back in there, get a 3-man midfield in there, because if you watch this game, Carlos Gil has to drop so deep to get on the ball. So deep. It's like if you put Polster and Leggett deep side by side, they can cover enough ground defensively, and both of those guys are really good vertical distributors, so Gil can just stay higher and he doesn't have to do everything. And like none of that is happening right. Like there were 5 plays against Miami where I'm looking on and I'm like, holy crap, is that Carlos Gil dropping all the way to the back line to take the ball off somebody's foot and try to progress the ball into the attack? It's brutal to watch right now. The Revs, they're not stopping anybody. They're not creating good chances. They're 23rd in the power rankings. Bruce Arena has his first ever 4-game losing streak in regulation, I should say, as an MLS coach. Let's just move on. Let's move on to 22. A team that didn't play this weekend. FC Cincinnati is ahead of the Revs in the power rankings. They actually moved up 4 spots this weekend by not playing. I've talked a lot about Brandon Vasquez, who has been fantastic for about 1,500 minutes now, going back to last season. And he's not going anywhere. He's going to be in the starting lineup for this team. Is Brenner going to be in the starting lineup, Tom?
I mean, he should be. And like the club view him like, again, Don Badji's been doing very well, but I think we know what Don Badji is right now. He's a very good rotation option. He's a very good option off the bench. The plan wouldn't have been to sign him and start him 30 games. Like, again, he's doing very well and he's earned all these minutes. He's earned the right to keep playing next to Brandon Vasquez. But again, this best 11 is Vasquez next to Brenner with Lucho Acosta underneath. And let me just stop there before getting to the Brenner stuff. That's the makings of a legitimate MLS attack.
Oh, 100%.
Have you been able to say that about this team in their first 4 years?
They have not. Like, I don't think Tom, they have not had a legitimate attack, a legitimate defense, a legitimate goalkeeper, or a legitimate midfield. Now they're still missing some of that, but at least like if you look at the underlying numbers, since he's at or near the top in terms of expected goals, in terms of expected assists, and like a lot of it's coming from Lucho, a lot of it is coming from Brandon Vasquez, and like Brandon Vasquez is on a heater, but also like his goal scoring is in line with those underlying numbers. And so when the eye test, the box score numbers and the underlying numbers all align, it's like, I trust all of that. Like when they're all working together, it makes sense that it's happening like this.
Yeah. And so it just depends on if they're able to get kind of that, potential attack into reality. Like, again, as I reported this week, Brenner, his camp wants him out. He wants out. And I guess I don't necessarily blame him just because last year behind the scenes and on the field, things were really, really bad for Cincinnati. So I can understand why he might have, bad taste in his mouth and then not starting for the first month. There were some problems in preseason where, again, through no fault, I don't think of the club, and through no fault, I don't think of his own, where he had to miss a decent amount of preseason getting his visa. And that's just an unfortunate, byproduct of international players in MLS sometimes. I don't understand, the arcane government rules and stuff, but whatever. He missed a number of weeks of preseason, so he wasn't fit when the season started because he just didn't have the training sessions. That's why he started on the bench. That's why Don Badji got a chance. There was one game he was left out of the matchday squad. It was him saying, I want to just get match fit. Like, I want to focus on my fitness. So he asked to pretty much not be in the squad. And so I think he's ready to start now. Anyway, he did put in a transfer request because there are teams in Brazil that are trying to buy low on him. Internacional was the team that had a bid rejected by Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's stance is that they trust in his talent. Like, I'm not breaking any news here that not many people in the world thought that he was worth $13 million when he was bought last year, other than the person doing the deal for FC Cincinnati who no longer works in the front office. So I don't think that we should necessarily hold that against Brenner either. So because it's not his fault what the deal ended up being. But Cincinnati believe in his talent. They believe that in Pat Noonan's attack next to Brandon Vasquez, that there's more to come from him. And just my thoughts on it are that what's the rush to sell him right now? Like in just a general business sense, his value can't really be any lower, can it? Like he hasn't started a game since October of last year. And last year he scored 8 goals, but that was over 3,000 minutes or whatever. Yeah. In a team that was struggling really, really hard in attack. So I just don't know what the rush would be to sell him now. So I think that he's going to get a chance in the team. We'll see if that helps his morale. We'll see if they can win him over and make him want to stay. Or if not, I'm certain that this deal with Internacional is going to be there in the summer.
Yeah. Let me connect some dots here. Cincinnati desperately need help in central midfield, deep lying central midfield, yes. Right? They do not have a starting caliber player back there. Internacional have on their squad Johnny Cardoso, Brazilian American who's played for the national team, who's D-mid, in Cincinnati have been sitting on the top spot in the allocation order for a good long while now. Is there a possibility that if the Internacional deal for Brenner is still there this summer, that it's Johnny Cardoso coming the other direction to FC Cincinnati?
I'm not going to speculate on whether those two things could possibly be related or not. And again, that's
you don't have to because I just did. It's fine. I'll do that.
Well, I do know that Cincinnati, like there have been MLS teams interested in Johnny, and in FC Cincinnati in the trade of Gustavo Valencia, they have a U22 initiative slot open, and that's what it would take to get somebody like Johnny. And again, assuming that it'd be a transfer fee rather than a player change or something like this, like that's something that would work out. Like again, I've heard some rumblings. I don't have anything like reportable on that, but like I do know that there's been some smoke around Johnny and MLS. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But again, I'd be surprised if it had anything to do with Brenner. I think that Cincy aren't thinking that way. I think Cincy's first and foremost think that they want to get him in form. And then again, like the agency that he's rep by have a million clients and a million connections. Like there is going to be other offers if both parties decide, okay, like let's just get out of this.
All right. That's FC Cincinnati at 22nd. Let's jump down to 19th. Atlanta United. They dropped 7 spots. They were previously 12th. They lost 1-0 to Charlotte. They did it without Joseph, who is out for at least 6 weeks, I believe. Over the long haul since 2017 with Joseph, they're 69, 29, and 25 with a plus 95 goal differential. Without him, they are 13, 25, and 13 with a minus 15 goal differential. Dom Dwyer is their backup number 9 right now. He did not cover himself in glory. He has not really been an MLS caliber player for a few years now. It feels like this team is in some trouble.
Yeah, there definitely is. Like, again, and that's been a staple of their entire existence is, they're just a completely different team without Joseph Martinez. Like, those stats bear it out, and that's not a small sample size. And again, we always talk about looking at numbers and the eye test. Like, those things all correlate over the years, and particularly now, even when Joseph isn't at 100%, which he hasn't been since he tore his ACL at the beginning of 2020, even when he's been back last year and beginning of this year, like, he's not right, but there's still a different team with him. Theoretically, Luis Araujo, who's back in training today, which is a really welcome sign for them, with Thiago El Mata, with Marcelino Moreno, that should be enough to kind of paper you over this time without Joseph, and hopefully getting just replacement level value or performances out of the center forward. But they haven't been getting that from Dom Dwyer. They didn't get it from Eric Torres last year. Jackson Conway has had some moments, but I guess the coaching staff don't trust him to kind of be game in, game out fill in for Joseph right now. They acquired from Chivas on loan Ronaldo Cisneros, who didn't play many minutes over the last 2 years. There was a potential heart problem that affected, like, he had to be out for a while with, I believe it was a surgery or how to correct that issue. He was out for a long time. Somebody who was a talented player, but again, that's a lot to put on someone who has played 600 minutes over the last 2 years or whatever it is. So I don't know. They have a big question up top, and they've shown in their existence when Joseph's not available and Joseph's not even 75% of normal Joseph, like, they're going to struggle, and that's what they are right now.
Yeah. I wish I had some place to go off. I guess let's talk about Thiago El Mata, right? Because there's nothing. I don't know what else to say about them without Joseph, other than they have traditionally been a terrible team without him, and they showed me nothing this weekend to suggest that it's going to be otherwise going forward. But Thiago El Mata, look, I had some concerns over the past few weeks that he was maybe Ezequiel Barco 2.0. I wrote as much, and some Atlanta fans got very upset at me. I did think that in this game, he showed, if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw him hit a nice pass for a decent shot right in zone 14. I thought he showed some stuff in this game. I think he is a less selfish player on the ball. He's more decisive with his passing. He has shown some promise thus far in this young season, even though he's not by any measure lighting it up.
Is part of your worry that he's going to be Barco 2.0 is just when you look at the broadcast and you see the number 8 cutting in from the left side, maybe taking a few too many, you're getting just trauma like PTSD to the Barco thing?
A little bit of that. It's a little bit of that. I won't lie.
Do you think that him and Marcelino Moreno can coexist? Do you think that Luis Araujo kind of balances them out because he's somebody who, again, Marcelino and Thiago seem to take up those half spaces between left wing and attacking mid? It seems like they like to operate in similar spots, but I guess with Araujo being a right winger and, again, somebody who, if incentives are hit in the transfer deal, it's $12 million. Like, he damn well better be a good player in MLS, right?
Yeah. So, I don't know. Right? I think all of these guys are good, but I think they're jamming a lot of the same type of player together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because every other MLS team has the problem where they don't have enough guys who are dangerous off the dribble to battle. We're going to be talking about Austin in a minute. Austin's a perfect example of this. They have, lots of wingers who are good off the ball, but nobody who makes you pay the gravity tax with their dribbling. So they can stretch the field, but then when they get into those 1v1 situations, they can't really do anything with it. Atlanta's the complete opposite. They got two wingers and an attacking midfielder who are all kind of they want to come back to the ball. They're putting their head down. They're getting the ball on their foot. They want to dribble guys. And I don't it feels like they just have an archetype of what they want to go for, and they think more about that archetype and less about how to build a team whose strengths sort of amplify each other rather than taking stuff off the plate.
Gravity tax. I like that, by the way.
Yeah, that's not mine. That's not mine. That's from Thinking Basketball. So anyway, that's Atlanta at 19. We're going to jump down to Houston at 16, which is frankly higher than I thought we would ever have them this season. They're up 2 spots after that 4-3 win over San Jose. They are 3-1-2. It's been a soft schedule, but that is a good start by any measure. A lot of the goodness recently has come from Paulo Nagamura making the decision to sort of scrap the high pressing 4-3-3 he started the year off with and go to more of a lower block 4-2-3-1 that really features the sort of attacking prowess of Darwin Quintero, who is just a joy to watch, and deeper in midfield, Koko Karaskiya. For those of you who were paying attention to World Cup qualifying, you know exactly who Koko Karaskiya is. For those of you who maybe weren't, he's the number 8 and kind of the driving force for Panama. Tom, he's so good. He's so damn good. They have an option, I believe, on his loan deal to make that permanent at the end of June. Are they going to be able to get that done?
Yeah, they have a purchase option. Nothing's done yet. Nothing's, officially picked up, or nothing's officially, agreed to in terms of a contract. But talks are very good. I'd be shocked if he's not here on July 1st. As you said, he's been really, really good. He's been a revelation. Like him, I'm not sure if it was fitness or whatever it might have been, or just tactical decisions that he didn't start the first couple games or whatever it was. And I think similar with Darwin Quintero, they're a different team with these two players in the lineup. And this is clearly their best 11 with those two guys in it. So again, he's somebody that the club are super happy with. They think that, even what we don't see on the training field, what we don't see in the locker room, they're very bullish on that too. They really like his fit on the field and off the field with this team. Again, I'd be really shocked if they don't work something out. I don't know what the exact number on that purchase option is, but it's not high. If/when they do pick it up and they do agree kind of a long-term deal with him, he'd be a high TAM player. They're able to do it in which they don't need to make him a DP, which is crucial. And it's unfortunate, but if he was a DP, there might be a conversation of if you want to do it or if you don't. But if he's a high TAM, like that's a no-brainer. Again, they could put him on a DP spot if they end up not signing somebody for whatever reason, whatever the cap gymnastics maneuvering that they might need to do. But the long-term fit would be as him as a high TAM player and then bringing in another DP. So I think that's again, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's a no-brainer. Sebastian Ferreira, who was their big DP signing of the winter, he finally got on the board in this one. He got that set-piece goal, really well-designed set piece, and then he finished off the scoring on the break. They made it 4-2. They won this game 4-3. He has been kind of underwhelming. What are you seeing from him? How does he fit in this attack as it's currently constructed?
He's the centerpiece. Like they are so high in this guy. Like his scoring record in Liga MX and his scoring record in Paraguay. Like they believe in him. Again, it's not everybody comes to MLS and just lands on the feet immediately. I was talking to somebody in Houston this week, and I said, "Is Sebas kind of licking his lips here that he looked at the schedule and he sees San Jose at home?" And I got a polite joke back of like, "Yeah, this would probably be a good time to kind of get on the score sheet." So and then he did. He got his brace. I think that should help him get the ball rolling, but. I don't know. He's recently made his debut with Paraguay. I don't even know why that took so long because it's not like Paraguay have been this world-beating team in South America. And again, he wasn't just playing domestically. He has a decent scoring record in the game. He's kind of a year and a half before he came to Houston. But yeah, he's absolutely a centerpiece for this team.
So we know that Ache is coming in summer. Are there any moves pending for this team? Because look, the attack has been fun. And again, Paulo Nagamura deserves a ton of credit for being as pragmatic as he has been. The defense has not been great. The defense has been double plus ungood.
Well, they have Zeca that they signed as the Brazilian fullback. There's kind of questions about him. Columbus almost signed him in 2014, and then he went to the Olympics and was starting against Germany in the gold medal game. So that deal kind of got taken away at the last minute when they thought they signed him. So that's somebody that could be an internal adjustment. They can have a DP spot open when they buy down Teenage Adabe, which they would do if they had a DP ready to be signed. So I think that's just what to look at. They do have allocation money that should help in these things. They picked up some GAM for Derek Jones. They opened some cap space with the Joe Corona buyout. They picked up some GAM in the allocation order deal that saw Chris Durkin get to DC United. So they should have some flexibility from people I've talked to at the club, particularly in the offseason. So I don't know how the plans have changed, but they are cognizant of not trying to push all the chips in this one window. They know that they're building this for the long term. They don't want to, make all of their decisions without having data on how some of the first signings like Sebastian Ferreira and all these other guys and how they fit under Paulo Nagamura. They don't want to use every single bit. They want to build this for a few years. So we'll see what the market looks like, but they have some room.
All right. Let's stay in Texas. We'll climb up to number 12. That's where Austin is. They jumped 4 spots. They were 16 last week. They jumped 4 spots based on the strength of a 1-0 win over Minnesota United, which not the most aesthetically pleasing outing. To be fair, the second half was decent. They have 10 points from 12 at home so far. Granted, they have played an incredibly easy schedule. And just road games give them problems. If you look at their expected goals from 3 road games, they're under 2 point. They're 2.7. If you look at their expected goals from their home games, they're 8.5. I still don't know how I feel about this team, Tom.
I think that they're punchy. I think that again, it's not necessarily their fault how the schedule laid out. Like we're correct to be at least asked these questions, but they didn't choose this, and all they can do is win the games that they're supposed to win. The kind of elephant in the room here is whatever's going on with Cecilio Dominguez and what his immediate or long term future is. That's a big one. Any team losing a DP is really bad. And the way this team was constructed, it was kind of sat nicely with Dominguez at left wing, Driussi kind of as a second striker, number 10, and Diego Fagundes on the right. So we'll see, I guess, how that impacts them. But, again, I think this is a good team. They showed I thought that they showed a lot of positive signs in year 1 under Josh Wolf. And then it was just about kind of addressing those holes, which they did with Driussi. And they've tried to with Maxi Rudy and Musa Gite up top, which, again, I'm still dubious of myself, with Johan Valencia at defensive mid. Like, they got all the data points. And I think that, as long as these pieces do fit, that this is a good team.
So here's the thing, though. The pieces don't really look like they're fitting, right? Like Musa Gite has fallen out, not even out of the starting lineup. He's not even in the game day roster anymore. His one goal. Yeah, he has one goal in about 1,000 minutes. He does not move well off the ball. And when I say, he runs fast when he thinks to run, but he doesn't make the type of movements in the box that lead to goal scoring opportunities. And you can't be a starting number 9 in this league if that's the way you play the position. And it's gotten, as I said, it's gotten to the point where he's not even the game day roster. Johan Valencia is an interesting one because he was billed as the exact type of guy this team needs, a midfield ball winner and destroyer who can cover ground, eat up space. He looks utterly lost when he's out there. He looks utterly lost and afraid of the ball.
And he was supposed to be somebody who was ready to plug and play, put him in the lineup right now, and it's going to make this team better. So that's definitely one that I'm worried about as well. That he's 25 years old. He came with a decent transfer fee, and again, everybody talked to was this guy's ready for MLS right now. This guy's somebody who's just going to walk into the lineup and be their starting team mid, and he hasn't started yet. He's played 95 minutes.
And if you look at their scouting from South America, it's not great, Tom. Like Rodney Redes. Cecilio Dominguez, I don't, whatever's going on off field, I think I don't think he's a DP caliber player. They Romana, the center back that they brought in last year, he is not an MVP or not an MLS caliber player. And now add, Tomas Pochettino, who was their original DP, who they ended up parting ways with, loaning out to River Plate at the end of the year. Do you have any inkling as to what's going on with that? Because they're scouting for European players or European-based players. It has been pretty decent, but it's just a mess when they go down to South America.
Yeah, who knows? And again, we talked about Houston having some flexibility. Like, I don't know what Austin would have to do to make room for a key addition. Like when the Giassi Zardes stuff was, again, with him on the block and him being, if a team wants him, they can pay and get him. I don't know what the team would need to do to make that happen. Like we talked about sunk cost fallacy and that they did well by not believing that they kind of believed in that with Tomas Pochettino moving him on. Like Zardes, I think would be a really good fit for this team, but I don't know how you can have a U22 initiative slot on GT, however much Maxi Rudy's getting. MLSPA
Yeah.
hasn't released a contract number for this year, but they have their U22 initiative slots all spoken for, I believe, off the top of my head. And they have all 3 DP spots spoken for. And I don't know what that salary cap looks like. So I think this is it. And that, maybe we'll see something in the secondary transfer window, but they kind of rolled this team out for week 1 to be ready.
Yeah. And they're better than last year. And I think both of us like some of the stuff that we've seen, but like the makeup of the roster for this Austin team concerns me. All right, let's move on. We're going to climb into the top 10. The Red Bulls are number 8. They're down a few spots. They lost at home to Montreal this weekend. I'm not going to say dominated, but they were the better teams for 65 minutes. And then
I'd call it dominated those 65 minutes.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that.
They dominated the first 65 minutes and then they just collapsed. What is happening with this Red Bulls team, Tom?
It's inexplicable because I can't even necessarily point to like the game against Columbus where they gave up the equalizing goal again. I still have no idea what Jared Struber is doing in bringing a center forward off the bench with a minute of stoppage time left for a defensive midfielder and probably their most valuable player through the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And then correlation happens that they give up that goal deep in stoppage time. It's inexplicable. Carlos Cornell is one of the best goalies in this league. Don't know what happened there with him and Tom Edwards that leads Ronald Kyoto to having a wide open goal from 50 yards out. Like we all sweeper keeper. It's very important to the way this team plays with a high line and everything, but there are a few reasons why a goalkeeper needs to be coming out that far. So a lot of it's inexplicable, and it's kind of a roundabout way of saying, I don't know, because sometimes you point at like high pressing teams when you kind of take away their mentality, their ethos, like holding on to a 1-goal lead, like they don't know how to do it. We talk about like Portland or whatever last year was a good example of that in a high pressing team, but they were a team like if they, we need to hold on to a 1-goal lead, they really, really struggled. And that's something that's indicative usually of high-pressing teams that we know one speed, go. And if you tell us to try to sit in and kill off a game, that's not why we were all brought here. That's not what we're always good at.
So I'm gonna interrupt you. I'm gonna interrupt you then. So if that's the case, and they dominated for 65 minutes, and they're only up 1-0, does that mean like the root cause of this is that their attack is just not finishing the chances they're creating? Does this come back to Patrick Klimala not being good enough for that job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like kind of blaming one player. Like Patrick Klimala definitely needs to be scoring more goals, but Luquinhas hasn't, done a ton. Again, it's super early, and that's unfair to expect them to walk in and just fix everything. They're just not getting enough from the attack. Like Caden Clark has started 2 of their last 21 games. Like they had to invest a decent amount of allocation money to get him by the allocation order. And it was pretty clear that Jared Struber didn't necessarily rate him last year. Like he was out with an appendix and then he just never got back in the lineup. And this year, I know that he was out with injury this weekend. It wasn't necessarily a tactical decision, but like there are like the pieces should be there. The ones that they're paying to be the game changers aren't doing it.
Yeah. Lewis Morgan, remember when he had that hat trick against Toronto FC? He has not done much at all since then. Part of it might be the way he's used. Right, because he's mostly been wide since then. He's mostly been like a wing back. That game he was kind of he was like a tucked in winger, like a half space merchant. Is the answer in part to just move him back inside a little bit?
Yeah, and again, but it depends on. I think that right now they need to be seeing what they can get out of Luquinhas. Just he's $3 million player. He's somebody who looking at a spreadsheet, he's got to be the one that's supposed to be leading this attack, supposed to be carrying this attack, the creative burden. So I think that you try to give him every chance to succeed that you can. But yeah, maybe part of it is just, okay, if this isn't working, like we need to kind of accentuate Lewis Morgan again. But he's a versatile player. Again, he's not playing at his best that he was at the beginning of the season and with that positioning, but he's somebody who like he can give you a 6 out of 10 playing it at their position. Like I don't know. I think that there are a lot of different ways that this could go. They need to, again, figure out that attack. The defense is something that I wouldn't worry about with this team with Cornell and Aaron Long and John Niels and all that. So, yeah, the questions are in attack, and they need to be killing games off. This shouldn't have been close with Montreal. It should have been dead and buried after 65.
So, you said there's a lot of different ways these things can go. What way do you expect it to go?
I've questioned a number of Gerhard Struber's decisions. I think that he is a very good coach, but I don't know. I'm not just going to give him kind of carte blanche and assume that it's all going to be fixed. There have been some weird decisions. Like Frankie Amaya didn't play at all last year. And look what he did in the first month of MLS. I don't think that he's a different player than he was 6 months ago. So I honestly have no idea.
Yeah. That's so Metro. We'll jump up a couple spots to number 6, Dallas. They were 9th last week. They won 3-1 against Colorado. They got some of the devil's magic from Brendan Cervania, man, on that goal. They got a pair of goals. The first one was really nice from Jesus Ferreira, the old Gerd Muller turn and shoot from the top of the box. They didn't play well. They did not play particularly well in this game. They still got a 3-1 win over a good team. That feels different than FC Dallas over the past few years, because like if they were facing a good team, they basically always needed to play well.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. And like, I'm not going to say anything better on this topic than that. Like, that is absolutely something that was not indicative of this team, even since Oscar Pereira, really. Like, Luchi Gonzalez, like, he did really well. But like you said, it was when things went well, they really went well. They weren't great at, necessarily grinding out results. And part of that comes with not having, the top end talent that in terms like Franco Hara, and you look at some of the other ones, when you're not at your best across the league, that's when Carlos Gil digs out a result. That's when Gustavo Bo, that's when insert any of the big names, Lucas Elorán, what he's helped do for the Columbus Crew at the beginning of the season. Like, they didn't have that. And so I think it really was indicative that they needed to play really well, kind of 1 through 11, to get results. And this year, it's not quite the same. Like Jesus Ferreira has leveled up. He's a legitimate star right now, and it's really awesome to see. Paul Arriola has been kind of undervalued when he was at DC United. Like, I think he's great. Like, Alan Velasco. It looks like they really finally hit on this huge signing. So yeah, I think signs are really good for this Dallas team, and I think that they have another level to go.
So I'm going to take it in 2 directions from there. The first direction is, okay, Jesus Ferreira has leveled up. He's a star now. Like, how big a star? Is this a guy we're talking about as first 11 or best 11 rather? Is this a guy who we're talking about as, potential MVP? Or is this like, star as in like 14 goals, 8 assists, the type of guy we talk about as one of the 5 or 6 best number 9s in the league?
Why do we got to split hairs on star? I'm good with star. I don't want to put a ceiling on him. I wouldn't go as far as to say best 11 right now, but 4 weeks ago, I would have, when he was named to the U.S. national team roster in the game before his hat trick, he hadn't scored since October. So he's riding a heater. I want to see it kind of more for the rest of the season, but I think that it's very clear that he has taken a step up.
Okay, I'm going to let you get off the hook with that for now, but I want you to know that I'm going to American Soccer Analysis to see if Jesus Ferreira is leading the league in expected goals and assists combined, which I suspect that he is. The other thing I want to talk about, like, Jesus Ferreira. Yeah, Jesus Ferreira. No, once you get to like 7-8 games, that starts being relevant.
I'm sorry for not giving him the MVP right now, is what I'm saying.
I'm not telling you. I'm asking you for an opinion, and you're dodging like you're on the defendant stand. Anyway, all of this is happening. They have a star forward from their academy in Jesus Ferreira. They have 3 starters from their academy in central midfield, and Brendan Cervania, Paxton Pomacall, and Edwin Cerrillo, who has also leveled up this year. Just like, as someone who's been following the league for a long time, do you think that this portends something for the league as a whole if these guys go from academy to potential to like the starting midfield for one of the better, if not one of the best teams in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it just goes to show that Dallas were among the first clubs to really, really take their academy seriously and really kind of put an emphasis on it. And right now, that's why you're seeing that they have, again, their best 11 right now is 3 homegrowns in central midfield and a DP center forward, all of which from their academy. I think that just it just happens with time. It happens with, like, we're looking at what Philadelphia Union are doing too. Like, they weren't at the same day, the early days that Dallas were in terms of this academy. And they all of their depth, it seems like, is coming from the academy, coming from the second team or kind of little moves like that. So I think that, it portends in the fact that we're going to see more and more of this from the other clubs that have been taking their academy very, very seriously. San Jose is another one that has been doing it in recent times, that they have a lot of kids coming through the pipeline. LAFC, there was a reason why they started with, their oldest age group was U13 or whatever it was when they started. Those kids are starting to come of age. So I think that the teams that really cared and really did development right, that we're going to see more and more of this. And we're going to, 5-6 starters from the 5 or 6 homegrown starters is not going to be something that's wild.
Yeah. Producer Phil wants us to know that Ferreira is 8th in combined expected goals and assists, and Daniel Gazdag is 1. But I'm looking at the list, and Gazdag takes penalties. Patrick Klimala, he's number 2. He takes penalties. Hani Mukhtar is 3rd. He takes penalties. Lucho Costa is 4th. He takes penalties. Diego Rubio is 5th. He takes penalties. Pato is 6th. I don't believe he has taken any penalties yet. So in terms of non-penalty goals, non-penalty, yeah, he's buried like 3 penalties already. So in terms of non-penalties, goals and assists, Pato is number 1. And Jesus Ferreira is number 2. Those guys are stars, according to Tom Bogart. You've heard it here first. Climbing from 6 to 5, both in terms of our countdown and in terms of over the past week, is Nashville SC, who continued their season opening 8-game odyssey. Game number 6 in the books, a 2-1 win at Sporting Kansas City. They now have 10 points from 6 road games to start the season. They're doing what they always do in terms of being good on set pieces, attacking set pieces, I should say, and just like miserable to play against defensively from open play. Like, is there anything interesting to talk about with this team, Tom, or should we just admire their consistency in doing this?
I love the all yellow kits. I love Hani Mukhtar when he's in transition, however many opportunities he gets. I think that we should be, just because that they're not, I guess, aesthetically pleasing. Like you were trying to say that the Quakes were fun to watch. I think that a lot of people would prefer this over that. But they have their identity. They know what they do. They know what they're good at. I'm going to kind of parrot something that you wrote maybe a month ago or whatever. It's inexplicable to me. And I don't understand how they can possibly be struggling on defensive set pieces, just given they're so aerially dominant and they're so difficult to defend, to attack against in all states of the game. I don't understand how they're not better on defensive set pieces. I keep assuming that's going to get fixed, but it just hasn't yet. So I think that we should just look at this team and congratulate them, but appreciate what they're doing. It's a different style. It's not, everybody's idea of beautiful football, but man, it's winning points. And this is them. Gary Smith is pretty standard in, like, he really kind of clamps it down on the road. So maybe there's a little bit more fun to be had when they get home on May 1st after their 8-game road odyssey. But for right now, look, man, they're picking up points, and I think their fans are fine.
Yeah, two notes here. One is that they switched away from that 4-4-2 diamond they were playing early in the season, which I think partially has to do with personnel, because with Dax McCarty suspended, you can't put the 3 D mids out there and have it be as solid as I think Gary Smith likes it to be. So I think getting the extra center back in there makes sense from that point of view. But the other note here is that Anibal Godoy did not start this game. And that surprised me a little bit. I saw it last week with him coming off of a lot of hard minutes for Panama and World Cup qualifiers. But this week, he got a week of rest, and he's logged a lot of hard minutes over the course of his career. But he has been an every game starter or 90 minutes every week type of guy for Nashville over his career. Is there anything to read into this?
I don't think so. And I mean, it's something to keep an eye on, I guess, if it trends like this over a month or whatever. But I think, like you said, it has a lot of hard minutes, a lot of travel with Panama, a lot of burden with Panama, both physically and emotionally. And in the past 2 years, they haven't had Sean Davis or Dax McCarty or Ganaba. They've had 2 of those players. They haven't had, an air quote non-starter in, Sean Davis or Dax McCarty or Anibal Godoy. So I think that it speaks more to their depth and the options, and kind of Gary Smith wanting to move minutes around, and why not try to keep Anibal Godoy fresh for as long as you can. One question for you: they have a DP spot open. We might talk about their other DPs, but if they're committed to this 3-4-2-1 or 3-4-1-1, however you want to phrase it, I think that you could talk me into saying, find the best right back that your scouts can find, or right wing back, an attack-minded right back. Would you use a DP spot in a Gary Smith team on a right wing back?
No, I don't think.
Not even this team.
Not even this team. And I understand the impetus, but look, CJ Sapong is the starting center forward right now, and CJ Sapong has been a good player for a long time. You're not winning a trophy with CJ Sapong as your starting center forward, and it seems like they missed it with the Ake Loba signing, and that's got to sting, because that was a lot of money. And they scouted him for years. And Gary Smith this wasn't the front office deciding on their own. Gary Smith was, brought in as part of the decision-making process. But they all kind of biffed it. And Ake Loba, barely, he's a human victory cigar at this point. And that's rough. But like if this team is serious about having some sort of silverware at the end of the year, I do think they need to upgrade center forward. They tried, it didn't work out. They probably need to go back to that well for the summer window.
I don't know, man. Like again, Garrison is with his team. He knows infinitely more about soccer and tactics and everything he wants to do with this team. But I just want to see one game where Ake Loba starts next to Hani Mukhtar. Or if it's going to be, if you desperately need a proper target forward to CJ Sapong and Teal Bunbury, and again, he's not proper target forward as we've had this discussion before, but whatever it is, I would love to see Hani Mukhtar and Ake Loba on the field together, and preferably with Randall Leao for 200 minutes, 300 minutes. Just see what happens. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. So that's I'm not ready to rule this out. I'm not ready to rule this as dead and gone. And I understand, like, there's probably valid reasons in training and everything else as to why he's not starting or not playing more minutes. But until that I see it in a game, like, I'm not going to rule this out.
Yeah. Maybe when they go home, when it's less about like just bunker and counter, when they have to carry play a little bit more.
I don't know why it has to be that binary though. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me not looking at it in that sense, but I don't know why it has to be such a different mindset, and it's like an extremely different like view of the game when you're home versus away. I mean,
yeah, it's weird. It's weird to me, but it's really clear that that's how Gary Smith approaches it. Like, and he's certainly not the only MLS coach, but like maybe next month when they're home and they have 17 of their final 26 games at home, so they'll have a lot of chances. They're going to have to carry play more. They'll want to get more skill and more goal scorers on the field, and maybe that'll open up some room for Ake Loba to get out there. Our final team that we're going to break down this week, LA Galaxy, up 2 spots to number 2. They won the El Tráfico, the latest edition of El Tráfico this weekend, 2-1 over LAFC. It was a great win. They did it shorthanded because no Mark Delgado. They are a better team than last year. I think they are pretty clearly a playoff team or on track for that. This still feels pretty high to me, Tom.
I don't know, man. Like, who would you have moved ahead of them?
I would have kept LAFC ahead of them. LAFC was a better team in this game.
I mean, fair enough, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to go as far to say Greg Vanny masterclass, but the way that they managed that game, again, he played Keldon Leerdam at defensive mid. He hasn't played that since he played it a little bit in the Netherlands, I was told when I asked the question. Looking at him, as we're watching the highlights now, maybe we say something different if that initial Carlos Vela one-on-one doesn't hit the post or hits the post and comes in, or there are little moments in every single game, but like, I don't know. I walked away really impressed. If you told me before, like, 2 weeks ago, no Douglas Costa, no Mark Delgado, Kevin Cabral was finally put on the bench or stayed on the bench for most of the game, would you be able to play LAFC and, get a result and get a win? Like, I'm not sure, like, because I think Mark Delgado is super important to this team, and the way that they manage that, and the way that, this team without all of their pieces, without Douglas Costa, another game breaker, like, I thought Victor Vasquez was very good, and this is a game that theoretically he should be struggling in at his age and his play style, with how athletic and how high pressing and how energetic LAFC is. But I don't know. I think that they should be rewarded for this.
I mean, fair enough, and I think the 3 points is the bigger reward than the 2 spots in the power rankings.
I'm not sure. Can we ask Adrian Heath?
Yeah, right. And like, look, the star of this team is Chicharito, and it's not just being a star; it's being like the emotional force that's driving this team. You could see that they feed off of him. His movement creates space for everybody in that attack. He, part of the reason I thought that the LAFC center backs looked tentative and uncomfortable throughout this game is like, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think Chicharito does that to center backs. And
imagine being a 19-year-old center back and trying to mark Chicharito.
Yeah, right. It's a good education. And that, like, all of that is great, but are we sure that Douglas Costa is a difference maker in this league? Are we expecting it to click for Kevin Cabral, who has apparently lost his starting spot? Is like, can Efra Alvarez level up and be a guy? Because like right now it's Chicharito or like a broken play that leads to a Sega Koulibaly goal. Like, that is it. Yeah, no, I mean, that, like, honestly, somebody else has got to be able to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I don't know, man. I think Kevin Cabral just needs to see one hit the back of the net. Like he's clearly kind of snatching at stuff. He clearly doesn't have much confidence. We haven't mentioned a $4 million signing center forward Dejan Joveljic. I don't know where he fits in. I thought that we might see more two center forward looks with Greg Vanney in Chicharito and Joveljic. But last year when we were seeing more two center forward looks, it was Kevin Cabral playing as the center forward. Again, I'd like to see Joveljic get a run in this team. He's somebody who's highly rated. He scored like 22 goals in a league campaign in Austria, which is not, the Champions League, but that's not nothing. The MLS has kind of either brought players from Austria. You look at, Erkan Kara and now Taki Fountas with DC United. Like that's something like that's supposed to be your secondary source of goals. But yeah, I think Douglas Costa is a difference maker in your league. In this league, I think that attack.
Wait, you do?
Costa,
how what is your confidence level on Douglas Costa being a difference maker in MLS?
In like the next game, really high. In like 3 months from now, it's something I'm going to need to keep seeing just because of the questions of his consistency and the questions of the minutes he's played in the last few years at a high level. So I think right now, like he's fit pretty well. He's fit pretty quickly, and like when he's on the ball, he can still be electric. And maybe he's more of like a chance creator than a chance finisher, but that's what you need with Chicharito. And I think that there are some more goals to come from him.
Yeah. Okay.
You seem to disagree.
I'm still tepid on it. I like a lot of what I've seen from this team. They are creating chances at a higher level than they have in years past. Defensively, they're much improved. And like part of that is personnel, but part of it is just like they look like better drilled than they have in the past. Jonathan Bond had a really. Yeah, Greg Vanney's a good coach. That's what it comes down to. Greg Vanney's been a good coach in this league for a decade. Like, it's smart to bet on good coaches, and I think that's what we're all doing here. But, like, there's a difference between this team being better than last year or better than 2 years ago and this team being one of the elite teams in the league. And I feel like I haven't seen enough to say that they actually are that yet. Now, if Douglas Costa starts, banging in goals and they start like they've controlled a lot of games. They haven't turned that into a lot of big leads. If they start doing that, then I'll start to believe a little bit more. But I haven't seen that yet.
I think all that's fair.
And I'm not sure that we are going to see it based upon the personnel that they have, but we'll see. That's the power rankings for the week. That top 10, again, there's the big mover this week was Orlando City. We talked a little bit about them at the start of the show. Colorado 10, Chicago 9, Red Bulls in 8th, Orlando up 10 spots to 7, Dallas to 6, Nashville to 5, LAFC to 4, Seattle to 3, the Galaxy up to number 2, Philadelphia holding strong in that number 1 spot. Those are your power rankings, right? But we have business to attend to, Tom, because the Seattle Sounders come to the ancestral home of NYCFC, which is Harrison, New Jersey, to play NYCFC in the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League semifinals. The Sounders just about ran him off the pitch in the first leg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Ronnie Doyle had a quote, I think this week, that said he thought that they controlled 80%, maybe 90% of the game. I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. I thought Seattle were deserved winners. I think that NYCFC should at least be happy that they got an away goal, and they're only down 2 here. So I don't know. It's a really tall task, and like you said, their ancestral home, not their actual home. It's a quick sidebar. If they were to kind of come back here, if they were to win the CONCACAF Champions League at Red Bull Arena, do they get to put up a banner at Red Bull Arena?
It's tough to tell which fan base would be more upset by that, the Red Bull fans or NYCFC fans. But like it does not feel like this team is equipped to come back because while 3-1 with an away goal is not insurmountable, they're going to be going into this game without Maxime Chanot and without Maxi Morales. And that's in addition to being without Anton Tinnerholm, who has been a long-term injury at right back, and maybe some questions about Malti Amundsen at left back as well. So this is I don't want to say very shorthanded. This is a shorthanded NYCFC team. It does not feel more than 5% likely here that they can pull this off. Yeah,
look, Maxi Morales right now is irreplaceable for them. Santi Rodriguez is somebody who can do at least some semblance of a facsimile of him, which is a step up from what they've had in the last few years, and that they didn't even have anybody who could, try to do some of the things he does. But again, no, even at his age, I think 35 now, there is no replacement for Maxi Morales. Like that one really hurts. Like in Maxime Chanel for all the good that he's done over the years, like you can at least kind of plug in another center back. But when you're chasing 2 goals without Maxi Morales, it's gonna be really tough. I do think that there's a path to this. I think that there's if Tati Castellanos gets an early one, or if Talis Magno, like he's clearly on at the beginning of the game, whatever it is, like I think that you could talk me into it. I don't think it's likely at all. I'm just trying to kind of play out the scenario, but this doesn't seem like a lost cause. It doesn't seem like 5% is probably too light, but it's definitely not likely. But I don't know. There is a lot of talent in this team. We haven't seen them really click for 3 or 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Probably that. I'm not sure if they've really clicked against a real top level team like the Sounders are. So it's difficult. But again, I think that if they get that first one, particularly if they get in the first half, that it really is a path to this.
Yeah. So let's flip it and let's talk about the team that come in with the 3-1 lead. The Sounders have not been great in MLS play. They've been really good throughout this CCL run, maybe with the exception of that second leg against Leon. And they were dominant in this one. Just like the amount of numbers they were able to get into the box on the run, basically at all times, it was really impressive.
Yeah, this is the best that I've seen them for a bit, and like this is we were all talking all offseason about, and even last year because they were never really fully fit because Jordan Morris was out the entire year. All of that, like we've all been waxing about this team of what they could look like when everybody's there. Well, that's what it looks like last week, and like that's super encouraging and it's really exciting. So if you're a Sounders fan, if you're an MLS fan, like this is a team that I think if they get to the finals, again, you can correct me. You watch more Liga MX, you read more Liga MX than I do. I think that they have to be the favorite if they get through.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think against Cruz Azul, it's a coin flip. Cruz Azul is really good. Again, if Pumas won 2-1 in the first leg, if Pumas is able to keep that and get through, then yeah, Seattle are, I would say, pretty sizable favorites against Pumas.
Hope is the most dangerous thing you can give.
Hope is it really is.
The CCL, so, like we need Wiebe here to
right. But so 2 big things from this game. One is that Christian Roldan has, well, I guess I'll say 3 big things, right? Because one is the return from injury of Raul Ruiz-Diaz, Nico Ladero, and Jordan Morris. And Morris has been playing, but he hasn't looked himself until the first leg of this game. Those are 3 DP caliber players. And it like when they play like that, they are arguably the best team in the league. We have them at number 3, but would anybody be shocked if a month from now they were number 1 in these power rankings? I don't think so. Not when you have match winners like that. That's one. 2 is with the addition of Albert Rusnak, who has in his career he's played as a number 10 or on the wing for RSL. He actually played as a number 8 in this game. And like side by side with João Paulo, who we all know is an MVP candidate, and with him back there and like sort of embracing the role of being a pass before the pass kind of guy, they were able to just annihilate NYCFC's press. NYCFC is one of the best pressing teams in the league, and by having those dual 8s or dual 6s, if you want to think about it that way, in Rusnak and in João Paulo, like NYCFC was not able to turn any of their defense into offense. And when they don't have Maxi Morales, they absolutely need to do that. And the knock-on effect was that it allowed Ladero to stay higher. Ladero, I mean, we all know his work rate, especially for number 10, is unreal, but like he's 33 years old. If you can get him higher up the pitch and staying there, it's a good idea just to save his legs, but also to be more creative. And then the third part is that, okay, we know that Ladero wants to be on the ball and Ruiz-Diaz likes coming back to the ball. The way that Christian Roldan has been able to, as a winger, extend the field and like just make it bigger, both in terms of width and especially attacking depth. He's played winger before and he's played at a pretty high level. Not like this, man. Not like he's leading the CCL in assists, and like it's not a mistake.
What I keep coming back to is that his decision making off the ball at that
it's incredible. It's incredible.
It's mind boggling that he does the right thing every single time, and not always when it's obvious. He knows when he needs to stretch the field and when he needs to pinch in. He like against NYCFC, like the reason like Albert Rusnak, like it's good to have him as a release valve in central midfield. He's not a huge ground cover. Playing him kind of as the right sided of that double pivot with João Paulo, with Christian Roldan doing all of that work, like me or you could have maybe beaten the press there. Christian Roldan makes the game so much easier for so many other players. And like, I'm glad that he's leading the CCL in assists. I'm glad that he's getting kind of box score numbers because it's so easy to overlook that. And same thing with João Paulo. Like the way that I can't imagine a better midfield combo than to be, again, between those two guys and Nico Ladero, somebody with his incredible work rate and everything he's done over the years. It's just, like, I don't know. I think that we give these players a lot of credit, and somehow I think that we undersell it sometimes. Like, again, like Christian Roldan has been phenomenal for this team, and I don't really know how you have somebody who replaces that role. And again, that you've talked about the connection between brothers Roldan on that right flank. It's just devastating. And it's just, when this team clicks, and again, it's why all of us, armchair analysts have been writing about this. It's why all of us have been talking about what this team could be when they are at full strength and when they are at full form. Like it was a beauty to watch in Leg 1. And, I don't know if they're going to be more pragmatic, because I think that Brian Schmetzer's been pretty good at understanding when he needs to just simplify the game and get the hell out of the way, or when they need to be a little bit more professional. But if this continues over, a couple weeks span, a month, like, I don't know, I think it's scary.
Yeah, it should be. It should be fun to watch. CCL semifinals playing out over the next 2 nights. Tonight, Tuesday night, it is Cruz Azul hosting Pumas. Pumas have a 2-1 lead from the first leg. That one, that's at 10 p.m. Eastern. It's on FS1, Unimas, and Turiani. The NYCFC game hosting Seattle, that is Wednesday night, 9 p.m. at Red Bull Arena. That's on FC1 and Turiani. The winners will face off. It'll be a Liga MX versus MLS CCL final for first time since 2020. I think the 5th time overall. Can't wait. That pain feels so good. Lets you know you're alive. Tom, thank you so much for filling in. Tom, once again, was filling in for Andrew Wiebe for this week. Wiebe will be back next week. I might be back too. We might bring Tom back as well. Yeah, you never know. I could get Wally pipped any day now. Thanks once again, everyone, for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to the MLS Today podcast feed. That's where you can listen to this, hear this back. You can hear MLS Today every day at 11 a.m. That's usually on Twitter. Not this week, but you can still hear it on the podcast feed. Of course, the call-up comes out every Tuesday, Extra Time every Monday and Thursday, and Tom's podcast, Managing Expectations, every Wednesday early afternoon. Is that about right?
It depends on whenever I am or am not having technical difficulties.
There you go. Tom's always having technical difficulties. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Producer Phil. We'll see you all next week.
Cheers, y'all.